Can we all give a very, very warm welcome, please, to Grace and Annan-Callcott and Akil Benjamin is talking about It's a Trap. The future is not just a connected fridge.
Hello. Nice to see you all. Hi, how are you doing? Oh, hey friends, I see you in the back. Hi, people I've never met before. So my name's Akil. I am head of research at Comuzi, and today I'm with.
I'm Grace. No, that's not going to work. Is it? Oh, sorry. I'm Grace, press officer at Projects by IF, and we're going to talk about why the future is, in fact, not a connected fridge. So first, a little bit about who we are. IF is a tech studio that specializes in ethical and practical uses of data and AI. We work with big tech companies like Google AI, charities and civil society organizations like Oxfam, Barnardo's and Citizens Advice, and smaller businesses like Bulb Energy. We're working to build a more ethical information society.
So you may have heard this from Alex, but Comuzi is an innovation studio, and we work with organizations to build next generation products and services. And when we do this, we kind of do this to make a positive human interaction. And what we mean by that is we're trying to give people control. We're trying to give people access. We're trying to give people eudaimonia. We're trying to make people genuinely feel good using these tools. And we've done that for the likes of the BBC. We've done that for EY. We've done that for the NHS. And we did that with IF. And so we're going to show you what we got up to with IF to try and make these positive human interactions.
Cool. But first of all, we want to start with like a question, I guess. And that is like, what is the point of a connected fridge, right? So, you know, we're filling our lives with all these kind of connected devices, things like smart TVs, Alexas, and now connected fridges. And for the small cost of $3,000, you could have a Samsung smart fridge in your house tomorrow. But I guess the question is, like, what data is that collecting about you? Who accesses that data? I mean, your fridge would know, like, what you eat when you're home, like, probably more than the people that you live with, right? And so I guess the answer to that question for us is probably nothing really significant, right? It's not solving any really big societal or individual problems. And these kind of connected devices, IoT devices, are offering often immediate gratification with very little utility, and really at what cost, I think is the question. And just this week, it came out that, Amazon workers listen to your Alexa conversations. So, you know, things that you think are private in your home, like Amazon workers are there listening, giggling about the argument you had or whatever. And you know that's one, deeply unethical, but also kind of raises a lot of other questions around what these things that we're surrounding ourselves with are actually doing. And I guess that takes us on to the point that it's really, or we believe it's really the things that we don't see that are shaping power in society. That's technologies like automated decisions or AI, as Alex talked about earlier. And you know, this isn't a kind of utopian killer robots scenario, future nightmare thing. You know, they're here every day. Like Alex's example from the justice system is particularly terrifying, but also they, you know, they're part of Uber when you hail a cab, or Deliveroo if you order a pizza, or if you're scrolling through social media. And they are complex technologies that are very rarely explained or understood. And we think that matters because they have a really big impact at scale. And we'll show you a couple of examples of what that means. So first of all, this example, which you may have seen, Stacia Brown took to Twitter at the end of last year because she realized that Netflix was showing her covers, sort of movie covers with black characters on, even when they played a really small role in the movie. And in fact, she was talking about this movie, like Father, and she said, it's really weird and unethical to show black characters as kind of position them as principal cast members when in fact it's a white movie, a very, very white movie, with the lead being Kirsten Bell. And I guess the problem here is that when there's no transparency in the way that user interfaces are generated, it doesn't give individuals any control or power to flag when something is wrong. The next example is from Facebook. and an experiment that researchers did where they made a tool to show people how their Facebook feed curates content for them. And on the left-hand side is like all of the posts, and then on the right-hand side is the like algorithmically curated feed. And people saw posts on there that they hadn't seen before. And I think particularly kind of important was that one person saw a post from a friend and they were like, look, like my friend was in trouble and I didn't realize, like if I'd known that something was going on, I would have reached out, I would have tried to support her, but because I didn't see the post, I didn't know. And I think what this shows is how these kind of technologies are actually also having a really big impact on our relationships with each other. And then the final example that I want to show you is kind of it sets up, I guess, the work that we did together in that AI-powered chatbots are kind of being heralded as like the next interface to communicate with young people. And this is one that came out fairly recently, I think earlier this year, that Planned Parenthood in the US have done. And you know, in a way, there's a real opportunity here, right, to create a new channel or a better channel maybe for communicating with young people, and for young people to like seek out information about a really important area of their life in terms of their sexual health, and for them to educate themselves. But there's also like massive risks, and as we've seen, like the way that AI and automated decisions are often implemented actually ends up doing a lot of harm. And so really like what we at IF and Comuzi believe is that the devil is really in the detail of the way the thing is designed. And Akil will talk more about that now.
So, me and Alex were sitting down in the office one day, and when we were proposing this to IF, we realized that we were doing this because automated decisions has such an impact in people's lives. And so when we were designing our experiment to do this work, we chose mental health. And mental health is really one of those challenging topic areas regarding automated decisions because they can be so impactful, but there's yet many chatbots out there that do this. And so when we asked ourselves this question, how can we expose the seams, the inner workings really, of a mental health chatbot to make his actions more explainable, we really had to step back and do some thinking. Next one. So this is Moodjar. And to design Moodjar, we did some research with some young people. It was the product of about 23 insights and 6 key themes. And we took those learnings to really flip it on its head to the meaning of what it was to make a chatbot. Young people had some real key themes which they identified with. Young people want to be informed, not told. This was especially true in this situation. In line with mental health chatbot, young people didn't want to be diagnosed. They just wanted to be supported. Grace? Carrying on from Grace, the collection of information should be transparent. Young people are always, in our research we were doing young people, so that's what I'm going to refer to. But young people were really always aware of the digital environments they entered themselves in. When they open up any app, they understand that they're giving away their data for free and that they'll get this experience. And this brand may use this data for things they don't know. Now, in this context, it's their mental health. They want control of that information. And this is similar to the first. Knowing the outcome of profiling can be unhelpful. What's the actual purpose of this automated decisions? Is it out here to just profile me and tell me I've got depression, or is it out here to actually help me? So what we really started questioning the function of these tools, and we started designing Moodjar. So here's 3 things we learned. We learned about the relationship that young people want with technology. We learned why they choose certain technologies over others, and we start to understand their mental models for these things, so how they thought it all worked. And when we deconstruct this, we can then put all that together to make a better application. So tools not friends. AI shouldn't try to foster any human-like relationships. This is what the young people said in our research. They also said that it's important that the artificial intelligent or automated decision bot discloses that it's artificial or automated. I think that's also very important. And lastly, it's like AI-powered chatbot shouldn't betray privacy. Like we're in these systems, Alexa listening in your home, this, that, the other. Like there's Samsung had a smart TV that was also doing some listening in people's homes, and it's like it shouldn't betray the privacy that we have in our home. If the police aren't allowed in, why should these tools be allowed in? Why are they spying on us? Next one, please, Grace. this was the most interesting thing said in the research. I'm a researcher. I find it boring quotes like this interesting. Now, it's interesting because what this young person is calling bias, we call objectivity. Now, they trusted the bot because it would just respond back to them on things that they said, not any outside factors, not any like rose-tinted glasses of mum and dad or friends. And that's actually showing a service. That's actually showing the use of a tool. Next one, please, Grace. This is one of the last ones, and this is one of the last key learnings, but this actually divided the room. So there was two sets of people in our research group. There was the first group which just wanted security, didn't really care how it worked, and just that it worked, please and thank you. And then there was this kind of second group who were like, excuse me, what are you doing with my data over there? Now, both IF and Comuzi believe we should kind of be designing for the second person. We genuinely do. It's like almost like designing for the lowest common denominator to make everything more accessible. And the reason why we do this is because we now satisfy both parties. Okay, almost done anyway, I think. Grace?
Yeah, you're doing well.
Yeah, okay. Next one. And so this is Moodjar. This is just a micro interaction, but it clearly shows that we kind of achieved our purpose. We created a positive human interaction with automated decisions. We made it more explainable.
Oh, sorry.
Did the video work?
Meaning to, but I haven't studied. You said you struggle to concentrate and you're frustrated, so it's highlighted the word that I've said frustrated. Okay. It's clearly scanning for keywords so it can understand my mood. So it has understood my mood correctly. So I'm going to write yes.
That was one of many that was one of like 10 seconds worth of like.
So it's highlighted.
Sorry.
That was like 10 seconds of like 40 minutes worth of video interaction footage. But it kind of shows that we can actually make a difference and we can actually make a change with these products and services, especially with automated decisions and AI. And these are practical things that we can do. But the devil is in the detail. We do have to go out, do the research, talk to people, find out, and translate that back into product. And if we're not doing that, then I think we're doing people a fundamental disservice.
And so I guess the last thing we want to leave you with is like, why does it matter, right? Why does it matter if people understand the way these systems are working? And we think it's important because people are reassured when they understand how a machine is working. This is tested well both like for IF and our other like areas of work, and same with Comuzi. Like we both kind of take that similar approach. And there's also a real opportunity here in terms of kind of educating people more generally, the public, about how these like very complex technical systems are working. And by kind of helping people understand those things, they then have more agency to act within that system. And so basically, I guess, to sum up, the future, we don't think, is a connected fridge. Actually, the real opportunity is to solve problems and make people's lives better. And actually, I think Akil said this, like, you build better products when you design and like showing care. And ultimately, like, the technologies that we use are shaping like society, our own lives, our relationships with each other. And yeah, it's up to us kind of, and the future, like our individual futures and society as a whole. And it's really up to us, I guess, what that future looks like. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace and Akil. So the next up, I'm going to, if we could give another warm welcome, please, to Mary Abisanwa, who's going to be talking to us about open banking, budgeting, and securing the bag. So we'll give her a few seconds just to get set up. But again, just a reminder that if anybody has any questions about any of the lightning talks or anything else, you're more than welcome to ask the speakers afterwards in the break. It will be about 45 minutes over pizza and drinks and stuff. So please stay around for the drinks. Also, we have installations happening on the 4th floor as well. So the break is a fantastic opportunity to go and see the installations that we have in place. We have, like I say, mixed media, virtual reality, mixed reality, and all of the above. So it's going to be a fantastic few installations. And yeah, I'll let Mary continue getting set up. Talk amongst yourselves.
Perfect. Yay. Woo, I'm so loud. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be up here. Perfect. I'm going straight into it, right? Can't see anyone telling me otherwise. Hi, everyone. So tonight I will be talking about open banking, budgeting, and securing the bag because I 100% believe that it's really important for us as a Black community to be talking more about personal finance, to be talking more about money. And there is a lot of stigma in the Black community about talking about money. And I really believe our generation can be the one to change that. Amen to that. So really, I will be talking less about giving you financial advice and more about talking about the technology behind what the latest fintech firms are using and how that you can use them to drive good personal finance habits and really improve your financial literacy. So a bit about me. So I work at PwC, the accounting firm in our financial services consulting practice, which means I work with banks, private equity firms, advising them on operational and regulatory-driven problems. That's a mouthful, but essentially it's business advice. I also run a female millennial community called Now You're Talking, which focuses on personal and career development. So any women, I can chat to you about that in the break. And I also blog on Medium about personal finance, career development, because I felt like there was a really big gap in terms of literature, especially from a Black British perspective about the workplace, about personal finance. So I really just wanted to kind of share my thoughts. So you can see those on Medium. And then I just thought I would talk a bit about my kind of journey with finance. I definitely don't want to stand on this stage and act like I'm perfect. At university, at one point I had 3 jobs and the money was just coming in and it was going out. I really saw money as like an asset to just buy things, and like whether that was more clothes or more food, because you know student times, just be eating like nothing, no repercussions, just be eating. And yeah, so it was only really till I had a conversation with a friend and they were like, oh, saving. And I was like, yeah, I get saving when I'm saving for a holiday or saving with a really clear goal in mind, but I just didn't get saving for saving's sake, you know, like retirement, like what? So for me, I really had to do my own kind of education and research into personal finance. And it was a journey, but I think it's all about starting from somewhere, and hopefully that's kind of what I can tell you guys about tonight. So I guess I would just also say, like, a caveat, I'm not a personal financial advisor. And I think that's fine. I think really I want to talk to you about the technology behind these fintech firms and really thinking about how you can use them to drive kind of the right behaviors. And we don't need to be experts. We just need to have the conversation amongst ourselves. Perfect. So I thought I would start off talking a bit about how fintech came about, in my opinion. So really, I think it really starts with post the 2008 financial crisis. I think really people just lost trust in the financial services sector. You had the subprime mortgages, before that you had the deregulation of the banking industry. So when the government started giving out bailouts to banks, people were just like, I don't trust bankers, I don't trust banking, and I don't trust financial services. So I think that decrease in trust was what annoyed consumers. And at the same time, you had the rise in technology. So late 90s, early 2000s, you're having mobile, you're having apps. And those two things combined together, I think, is what brought around fintech. So fintech is essentially the use of cutting edge technology in the financial services industry. And I think it's amazing. It essentially gave, we're going to get more into it, but I think it's amazing how fintech is enabled to democratize the financial service industry. It's meant that you don't have to be a billionaire before you can invest. It's meant that you can start budgeting, saving in such a beautiful way, in my opinion. Okay, so next. So this is the question that I want you all to be thinking about as I'm talking. So really, how can you use this technology being the respective technologies I'll talk about today, to your advantage to develop good personal finance habits? I think it's not just about downloading another app. It's not just about doing what your friends are doing. It's really thinking about what am I trying to achieve? What is my journey? And not comparing that to someone else, just doing what is right for you, if that makes sense. So keep thinking about this question. Okay, so I think I'm gonna get into my talk. Sorry, turning the page. Yeah, let's get into it. So the first technology I'm gonna talk about is, let's see, open banking. So essentially, open banking is the secure way for providers to have access to your financial information. And really, open banking is enabled through APIs, application programming interface, which is the software that enables the exchange of information between programs and a specific operation. So that is a lot of jargon, but essentially, open banking releases that financial information that banks previously had about you that you weren't aware of how they were using that data. So I think open banking is an amazing, it's really stemmed back from really regulation, and there's a lot of the big banks and building societies have signed up to they've been forced to sign up to open banking. So what does that really mean for you? I think open banking helps people because the personal finance habit that it fosters is visibility. With open banking, you have your mobile wallet, you have maybe your Halifax bank account, and then you can integrate your Santander graduate account. And with that, you can see all your bank accounts in one place. Therefore, you have greater visibility of your money, you can budget better, and you can set financial goals. You can say, okay, in this bank account, I want to make sure I have this amount. Something that I do that I find really useful is I separate my accounts in different ways. So I have what I call Mary's short-term spending account. So that's the disposable income I have for this month in one account, and then I'll have Mary's medium-term spending account, and that'll be for like holidays and stuff like that, and maybe bigger investments. And then I'll have Mary's long-term investment account, which I can't touch. That's for my future family. That's for my pension and things like that. And I think separating it out in that way and using different providers and through open banking, I can easily see that money. I can move things really easily. And I think what that should tell you about is really financial goals. What are you trying to achieve? Don't just have your money in one place and just hope that, oh, okay, by next year I'm going to have enough. Why don't you make life easier for yourself? Why don't you separate it all out? And I've given a few examples. So the main banks and building societies have essentially been forced to sign up to open banking. So you should be able to integrate. Let's say if you have a bank account with one main bank account, you can link it with another in their app, their own app. But I think a really cool product in this space is Yo. I'm not affiliated to them. I'm just really shouting them out, so they should pay me for that. I'm joking. I'm joking. But I think it's good because it enables you to manage all your UK bank accounts in one place. And what they do that's really, really amazing is like, let's say you have a current account with Halifax that's like 0.5%. They'll say, you know, you could get a bit more if you went to like Marcus by Goldman Sachs, things like that. So that kind of use of open banking to compare, to see different products, get better deals, I think is so amazing. Secondly, I will be talking about automation. So this is the next technology that I'll be talking about tonight. And really, automation is just about making a process automatic. So when I was saying about my 3 types of accounts, instead of me moving my salary between those, why don't I automate that? Why should I spend, 5 minutes saying I'm going to move £500 into this account? Why don't I make sure that happens? And I think the beauty with automation is it really instructs financial discipline into you. I think sometimes, I'll be like, okay, I want to save a certain amount this month. Then I walk past that Zara sale and something different is happening. And then I walk past, I see, oh, maybe I need a new pair of shoes because I've got this event today. And then that's how things slip. And I think through automation, you can kind of force yourself to have financial discipline. And I think that's really the beauty of it. So it makes it easier. It makes it faster and easier to save by forcing you to, well, not forcing you, but essentially automating that process so you don't back out from the decision. So the 2 examples that I have here are Chip and Squirrel. So Chip, yeah, go ahead, take pictures because I don't have enough time to talk about them in detail, but essentially Chip is really cool. It's an automatic savings app. It uses artificial intelligence to scan your spending, and essentially, let's say you spend £3.50 on a coffee, 50p of that will going to a savings product, and it's just taking away kind of what they consider to be like negligible amounts that you won't really notice, and you'd be surprised like how quickly that builds up to a significant amount. And then Squirrel is really cool. It's actually backed by Barclays, so you know your money's safe-ish. Anyway, and I think it's cool because Squirrel doesn't even let you see your monthly salary. So they do something called like diverted income. So essentially, instead of your income, oh God, 5 minutes left. Instead of your income coming straight into your bank account, it goes into the money initially goes into your Squirrel account, and then it takes off a certain amount that you decided for bills, for certain payments, for savings, for your pension, things like that. And I think that's really good because, again, it doesn't tempt us to start spending, and then it puts the rest of that money back into your main bank account. Perfect. So I'll next go on to the next technology, artificial intelligence, which we've heard so much about tonight. And I think in financial services, this is really being used in two main ways. So we have Robo Advisors, which are essentially virtual financial advisors, which I think are so amazing. Again, this is when I was talking about wealth management, that was something really only enabled for really rich people who could pay for a wealth manager. But through Robo Advisors now, essentially you have the enablement of the average person to get financial advice, and I think that's beautiful. So the next thing is AI chatbots as well. So again, we've spoken a bit about AI today, but essentially that's just a computer conducting a conversation in a similar way to a human might have done. And what does this foster? I think these are really being used in the investment, wealth management kind of space, and it's really powerful because it's all about the concept of compound interest, how £1 today is not the same as £1 tomorrow. And I don't have time to explain that in detail, but definitely look into that if you're inquisitive about investing. The example products that I have here, Emma, Moneybox, Plum. Plum is in the AI chatbot space, and I think this one's cool. It gets integrated into your Facebook Messenger, and it just messages you essentially, okay, you spent £80 this week, your budget was 60, come on girl, like change it. And it actually talks like really quite like a human, which I guess is, in some ways is problematic. But I think it's really useful. Like that's the kind of advice people need. They don't need someone saying, "Oh, you've gone overdrawn. Please put money in the account right now." And that's how the old kind of banks were communicating with people. And then Moneybox. I think I've spoken to a couple of people about this one tonight because it is quite popular. And again, similar to Squirrel, it's rounding up your purchases. But I think what is better is it puts it into a investment product. So an ISSA, like a stocks and shares ISSA. So not only are you putting that money away, you're actually building on that money. And like I said, £1 today is not the same as £1 tomorrow, but it can be more than £1 today if you invest it. So definitely check out some of those. Perfect. And then the last one I would talk about seems so stupidly obvious, but I thought it was worth mentioning, and it was just really talking about the internet. The internet is amazing. I think beyond Netflix and YouTube, there's so much that we can use on the internet to educate ourselves. There's newsletters, podcasts, books. So really, I think especially in the Black community, like we need to start educating ourselves about personal finance, and also just stop being so emotional about the way we spend. Sometimes I find myself saying things like, "Oh, I had a bad day today. I need to buy," almost like I need to buy something to kind of refill my energy, and that's not the way it should be. How many times have we had dinners with our friends when we don't even remember what we ate or what we spoke about? It was kind of just the feeling of going out to eat. But imagine if we met up at someone else's house and we spoke about money and we analyzed our spending. I think that's the future of the kind of conversation. Mate, man, power to that, because I really believe that. Anyway, that talk was about to go left, so let me change the slide. And then I would just say quickly on these resources, BestPod is an amazing newsletter, especially is really targeted at women, about telling you about financial education, from pensions to investing. Honestly, if you don't have this newsletter, 100% sign up. And then for me, Rich Dad Poor Dad is so cliche, but like it was really the book that really changed my perception about personal finance. It really basically has like a really, throughout the book, there's just this juxtaposition between two dads. One gives good investment advice, one doesn't do anything, basically. And I think that narrative is really powerful. So definitely check out that book. And then I would just suggest, like, I thought support another black woman, Tiffany Elisha. She's an American personal finance advocate, so just check out her stuff. She has so much stuff. Perfect. So I think I was just going to end and bring us back to the initial question that I posed. It's not every day about downloading a new app or trying a new product. It's really thinking about what are you trying to achieve. Are you trying to budget? Are you trying to save? And therefore, going to the products that are really needed for you. And I just wanted to end this talk about saying personal finance is not a game. It's not something that you compete with other people. It's your own journey. And obviously, you can still have those discussions with other people. But as long as you're starting somewhere today and trying to develop, and I think small incremental steps happen. I went from university where I was just spending reckless, like, honestly, ask the clubs in Birmingham, like, my name, that's where my money was going. But I just had to step and change it up and really think about what money do I want to leave for my children? And I'm really, really, really passionate about creating black generational wealth in this country. Man, Jesus. Okay, so I think if we want to do things like that, then we really have to not stop avoiding it. Stop being scared to open your bank account. That's open your banking app because you're scared of the money that's in there. I think it's really, honestly, I can even relate. I'm not even trying to drag. Like, that's a real thing. So I think we need to just be super honest with ourselves. And then I would just say a couple of things about, like, be careful in terms of cybersecurity. It's not every app that you need to sign up to. Some of these apps aren't FCA regulated or don't have FSCS protection, which means if they fail, you're going to lose all your money. So those are some quick things to check out on. And yeah, overall, definitely bump into me if you want to chat further. But hopefully this talk has been insightful, introduced you to a new product, and probably just reminded you that personal finance is so important. You can catch me at Millennial Mary A on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you so much.
I got two mics now. Which one am I using? Sorry, sound people. Technicians at the back. Okay, so we're going to keep it moving. Thank you very much, Mary. That was a fantastic talk and gave me a load of tips to go away with. First of all, to stop going out in Birmingham. We're gonna give a very warm welcome to our next lightning talk speaker, who is Kenebolo Mayor Stephen. He's going to be encouraging us to not be afraid of getting involved in open source. As people involved in technology, especially as massively, wildly underrepresented people involved in technology or interested in technology, actually the impact that we can have by contributing to open source can be significant and can be huge. So Kenny Bolo is here to encourage us to do that and to give us hints and tips about how we can get involved in open source. Please give him a very, very warm welcome while he sets up.
Hello. I bring you very cold greetings from Finland. I came here and I noticed that everyone was saying, like, oh, it's cold, it's cold. I live in Finland, come on. This is like really good weather, so you should be happy. Okay, so I'm going to be giving the talk, You Can Do Open Source. I tried to make sure this talk was as non-technical as possible so everyone could follow. I've given this talk a couple of times to more technical audiences, but this audience, we have quite different set of people. Some people are not into tech, so I tried to make this as non-technical as possible. Okay, so hello. I'm Kenny Bolomaya Steven. I'm the front-end engineering team lead at this company called Bigcaster, which is in Finland. I'm also a developer advocate, and I'm the convener and community manager of the Coder Freak. The Coder Freak is a free weekend-intensive software engineering bootcamp where we try to get underrepresented folks in tech into tech. So basically trying to bridge the gap. I'm all pro-black, black and proud. I don't want any apologies for that. You can find me on Twitter at ExpensiveStevie, and please don't ask me how that handle came because I can't really explain. Okay, what are we talking about? First of all, I'll talk about what open source is. I'm going to talk about why we should all contribute to open source and how easily it is to get started with open source. So, what on earth is open source? Basically, this is the dictionary definition of open source. Denoting software for which the original source code is made freely available and may be redistributed and modified. There's special caveats to this. Open source software also comes with licenses. The license just means that you can share it freely and give credit where necessary. But yeah, this is the dictionary definition of open source. Just indulge me. By a show of hands, how many people here actually write code? Ooh, okay. I didn't know that. With so many. Nice. How many of you can say every tool you have used, you basically wrote it from scratch by yourself? Exactly. That is the reason why we should all contribute to open source. So I'm taking this code from Arietta. Why I love contributing to open source software. Working on Freenode, I don't know. How many people know Freenode here? Okay, awesome. This, by the way, is a she. Working on Freenode helped me, and many of the skills are later used for my studies in university and my actual job. I think working on open source projects helped me as much as it helps the project. Here, Henrietta is basically telling us that it doesn't really matter if you're in university. It doesn't really matter if you're shy in person. Online, no one really knows. They don't see your face, so that's totally okay. But the skills you can get from contributing to open source can actually redefine your life in the tech space. Some benefits of contributing to open source: improving existing skills. I mentioned this one first and foremost, mostly because as software engineers, you know that the more you do something, the better you get at it. The more you contribute to open source, the more you actually understand how the community works. And need I say, although I haven't put that in this slide, the more you contribute to open source, the more you can actually shape the direction in which this industry moves. It's one thing to actually say we want more black people in tech. It's another thing to actually put our mouths there. So I actually think it's important that you know that you can actually improve your skills by contributing to open source. You can meet people who are interested in similar things. I can give you an interesting story. One of my closest friends I'm not going to mention his name because he's quite shy, but one of my closest friends in the tech space, we've spoken at conferences together, is based in Germany. And how I met her was actually contributing to a project on Ember. I never knew that she liked webcomics. I never knew that she was into animations, but apparently we had so many things in common. And now, whenever I want to write a talk proposal, I'm having a brainstorming session with her. She's always been like a very good friend lately. So you can actually meet a lot of people who have the same interest as you. Find mentors and teach others. I'm a strong advocate for this because my passion is about teaching black people in tech. Not just black people, people of color, but usually it's been more black people. I think it's quite important that it doesn't matter if you're a junior software engineer or a senior software engineer. I think it's important that you know that in the open source world, you can actually find people to mentor or people to mentor you. This is how it works. And it's quite easy. It could be as easy as reviewing code, for example. You could keep a comment and ask a question, and then someone picks up that question and explains to you, and you get the conversation going. It's that easy sometimes. So as much as you like to write code in your own shell, I think it's also important to take note of these points. Build public artifacts that can help you grow and build a reputation and career. A quick example, I've been speaking for a couple of years now. The first time I was called to speak, it was because someone actually saw that I built a network speed calculator on NPM. And the person reached out to me and said they wanted me to speak about why I built that tool. The reason I built it was because while I was working, we needed a JavaScript library to actually do exactly what it did, like with Skype and calculate network bars and all of that. We couldn't find something suitable, so it was plain JavaScript. It was simple to do. I was surprised that we didn't really have something that could serve our purpose, and that's why I built it. Someone found that on GitHub and on NPM and actually invited me to speak about that. That's how I actually got into speaking. So it creates some kind of roadmap for you. It gives you some kind of advantage in that sense. And it's like a resume builder, in my opinion, also. Lastly, learn people skills. This one is quite interesting because in open source, I'm sorry, but sometimes we're not very nice. It's true, and it's something that as open source advocates we have to work on. Sometimes you would like to contribute to some projects, but when you go through the code reviews that you see there, you're like, maybe not. And this is okay. This is totally fine. But the reason why I encourage people to do it, despite that, is because, for example, part of the reason why today I'm a team lead, leading a front-end team, is mostly because from open source, I've actually learned how to deal with different characters. Some people are more reserved. Some people are more outspoken. In your normal work, for example, your regular 9 to 5 that you do, you might maybe work in a team that's very cohesive, and that's fine. But if you want to actually level up, sometimes it's actually good to have those other people that maybe cause distractions in the team, and learning how to manage them would actually improve your skills also. So, how to get started? My idea about this was to make sure that before the end of this conference, we actually have a few people who would make their first commits to open source. And I'm hoping that somehow we would all help me get to that point and help each other. So, who knows about CocoaPods? Okay, so I'm guessing no one from the iOS world is here. Nice. I've been renowned for my work on CocoaPods, but most people don't know that I actually don't do any real work on CocoaPod tool itself. My time on the project is mostly spent doing things like documentation and working on branding. And the reason why I'm pointing Orta, because if you're related to the iOS world, you will definitely know about Orta and CocoaPods. The reason why I'm pointing this is because it's quite important that people understand that you don't always have to write code to actually contribute to open source. This is the message I brought here, and this is the message I want everyone to go back home with. You don't always have to write code to contribute to open source. And I will prove that to you because some of my best open source contributions that I'm proud of have nothing to do with code. Let's take a look at this. If you look up there, this was Node.js version 11.4.0. This was the Node.js release. This is the proudest open source commit I've made in my life. I've written tons of code, but this here is the proudest one. I'll show you what's actually there. It was a line of documentation. As front-end engineering lead, I basically come from a back-end engineering background, so I'm not your CSS developer. I don't really know so much of CSS. I know standard CSS, but I don't know so much of it. Dealing with backend, I noticed that we needed to actually have a couple of headers. We needed to get a couple of headers out of the request objects. Unfortunately, Node didn't document those. The authority and scheme headers were not documented. So I had no idea how I was supposed to get this. And then I go in, I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I find an open issue. And I'm like, okay, so this is actually there. It's just not documented. All right, I'm going to write a documentation for it. And that's how I landed up in 11.4.0. And that was it. It was just documentation. It involved no code whatsoever. And believe you me, one of the shittiest parts of open source is our documentation. Sometimes you read them and you're like, what the hell? You know. Shout out to Vue.js. They have probably the best documentation in the industry right now. But when you look at some other open source projects, you look at the documentation and you're wondering. Documentations are supposed to be beginner friendly. If they are not, then you owe it to all of them to actually fix this. This one here was I think a few days ago. It was a real-time JavaScript. Basically, I was working on Prisma, and I noticed something wasn't documented that I needed to do. And basically, I made a pull request for it. And that's pretty much it. This is how easy you can get to open source. I have a lot of documentation issues. I don't have the time to show them here, but please afterwards you can meet me and I can show them to you. And you can. And for me, it's actually interesting that I'm here because one of the problems in our documentations is bad English. This is England. You speak English. Perfect. This serves everyone, right? So, but yeah, if you're willing to get in one contribution, even it's better before this, just holler at me and then we'll try to fix it. We'll try to get your first contribution merged in. You can find all this information here. I believe the slides will be up, so you can also make reference to this. And thank you. To leave, I will just leave you with a short video. I didn't make any animation. at me.
Thank you so much, Bala. That was a fantastic talk, and I hope people come away feeling inspired. If they don't already contribute to an open source project, or to increase their contribution, or just to change their browser from Safari to Firefox. Everyone, like, what year are we? So next up, I want us to give a very, very warm welcome to Jakadi Dyer, who's going to be talking to us about artificial intelligence in self-care. Now, as many of us in technology know, the industry can be extremely toxic and extremely harmful to our both physical and mental health. Like physical, because you're hunched over a screen. Like I work remotely as a software engineer, and the amount of times I find myself in the middle of like trying to fix a bug, like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and just it's terrible for your posture, but also for your mental health. So Jakadi's going to be talking to us about how we can use technology to solve the problems that it causes, probably to do with mental health. So how can we use technology and artificial intelligence to improve our mental health and self-care? So please give a warm welcome to Jakadi.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, great, that light. Ooh, okay. Nice to meet you all, and thank you so much for coming out. My name is Jakadi Dyer, and I am the founder of For Her. So just to tell you a little bit about For Her and the history of it and how it got started and what we're aiming to do. For years, I used to volunteer at this emotional support helpline, and one of the most difficult parts about volunteering on this helpline was sometimes you would get these heartbreaking calls where you pick up the phone and on the other line, all you would hear is someone crying. And if you're anyone like me, you get a call like that, all you want to be able to do is reach out and give them a hug and tell them that they're not alone. But what we were trying to do was to get them from that heightened state of emotion to a place where they could at least articulate what was bothering them. And it was over that period that I really began to understand the importance of that connection. People want to feel that they are seen and they are heard, especially when we're at our most vulnerable. So fast forward a few years, and I am kind of coming back around to that idea of connection, and I'm looking at ways to tackle some of the issues that young women in the UK face, largely because of experiences of friends and family. And I was looking particular at issues around sexual violence and abuse, and also mental health, because of how distinctly it affects both young women and the Black community. And I obviously sit at the intersection of both of those communities, right? So the stats will tell you this story. Young women aged between 16 and 24 are more likely, let me move out the way so you can see them, are more likely to experience sexual violence than any other kind of woman in those age groups. And then you have 41% of girls aged 14 to 17 have experienced sexual violence from an intimate partner. Now, the devastating thing about those statistics is that for so many of us, like, we can actually put faces and names. They're not just headlines and they're not just numbers. I also wanted to look at issues of mental illness and mental health. The stats will say, again, like 1 in 4 girls aged 14 to 19 deal with mental illness. And, you know, in the Black community, access to treatment, for example, we are less likely to access talking therapies like counseling. And what I began to see when I put together, right, all of these different numbers and stories and experiences and thought about my years over the helpline is that there are so many people out there who are dealing with mental illness, who have experienced trauma and are not getting support. And I wanted to find a way to respond to this. And I started to look at what services are actually available. And I found that there are over 100 free services in London alone. There are refuges, rape crisis centres, charities that provide counselling. There are weekly events. You can go, like, literally just down the street. There's an amazing charity called Step Forward that have just rounded up a whole week of mindfulness classes. They provide counselling for free for people up to the age of 25. So there are all these services, but they are hard to access, and that discourages people. So I thought, well, what if you could bring it all into one place and make it easily accessible? And so the concept of what would be For Her was kind of born. For Her provides an online database of services that support the well-being of young people, and particularly young women. These include kind of free counseling, they include rape crisis centers, they include helplines. There are both like national and local helplines that people can access that often we just don't know about. Just like, for instance, Step Forward, I have lived in this area for years and did not know that it existed. So there are also like a calendar that we're going to have on the site which will list which events are taking place each week. So when something is happening in your area, you actually know. So we have this database, right? And then we have the calendar. And with an amazing team who have been able to kind of transform my doors into like a real site, we actually have a platform that I'm really excited to share with people. But there was something still missing. That whole idea around how do we meaningfully connect with people. When I volunteered at the helpline and people would call up, they didn't just want me to kind of pick up and say, you know, this is what you need to do, this is the service you need to go to, thanks, bye. They wanted something more. They wanted to meaningfully connect. And so I started exploring what would be an option. Now, I certainly couldn't run a helpline because they're a really small team. We're a small team with like a non-existent to tiny budget. And many of us run full-time jobs. So it was going to be impossible to run a helpline, but I could provide something similar. And so I came up with the idea of adding a third feature, a chatbot. So just to explain what a chatbot is for, I mean, you guys are all probably familiar, but then there are some people who are not. So just to explain exactly what a chatbot is before I get into the For Her chatbot. A chatbot is essentially a computer program that attempts to simulate a natural conversation. So you can basically input something, be it orally or typed, and the computer is able to pick out the keywords, and from a bunch of set responses that I coded in when I created the chatbot, it can actually give back an answer to a user. So in this case, I might type in and say, what is the weather like today? It can pull out that I have said weather today using an application processing interface, also known as like an API. It can pull data externally and give back a response to a user. So it simulates a really natural back and forth. But there's an even more kind of interesting area in that field where people have begun integrating chatbots and artificial intelligence to do some cool things. So for instance, you have companies who have been able to use chatbots to provide digital therapy, provide cognitive behavioral therapy tools over mobile apps, and they have been super successful. So some of you may have heard of Wobot or ISSA, but they are amazing, and they're also free, so check them out. Just download them in the App Store. And then there are companies who have used kind of chatbots for the traditional kind of customer service elements. So using a booking agent, for instance, to handle appointments if you're Sephora, or using chatbots to streamline your ordering process. So what does the For Her chatbot do? Well, the For Her chatbot basically is able to talk with users about how they're feeling, providing responses, providing support, words of encouragement, where possible, providing tips like breathing exercises that we're working through with a counselor. And then it's also able to ask questions and go back and forth with users, so that what we'll be able to do is actually suggest different services from the database that we've amassed to users. It's something that we're constantly developing, and that's the reason why we're kind of still working on launching, because the chatbot that I created first, I felt like we could go even further. So I want to work on at the moment how we can actually get the chatbot to respond to different types of emotions, so it can create a more natural, but even a more supportive interaction. It's one of my favorite features on the site because it allows us to connect more meaningfully with users. The key thing for me is not just giving services, but also providing support, because I recognize how difficult it is to take that leap towards accessing some of the services that we have available in the UK. So what are the next steps for Her? Well, as I say, we are growing our database. We are kind of exploring how we can make our calendar as packed jam with events and making sure that we know which are the services that are providing cool classes like art therapy classes and different types of weekly group meetings and supports. We want to be able to list them and have them all ready for launch. And then finally, we're kind of refining our chatbot to make sure that when it goes live, it's the most kind of natural interaction that we can create. As I say, we're kind of aiming to launch by the end of the summer. So at the moment, we're going to be kind of having focus groups. Please do come find me. I've got some cards if anyone's interested in coming out. We'll provide food. With the budget, hey, we'll provide food. And please do go to forher.org.uk so that you can sign up so that as soon as we go live, you'll be able to access the For Her website. I'll just close up by saying this, like, For Her was created by me with the aim of making sure that no person eventually, but at the moment, no young woman in need will feel alone and feel like there is no one to turn to. And with an amazing team of young women from around the world, we've actually started creating a site that provides so many branches of support. We took technology that has been primarily used to make a profit, and we are repurposing it to kind of connect with people and to make an impact. And that is something that anyone can do. I'd just like to say thank you so much for listening to my speech. Please check out forher.org.uk. Come find me. I'll have cards as well. And thank you for sharing this space. Thank you.